My name is Lauren Bishop. I'm 34 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I was the golden girl, the dependable one. The first one in, last one out. The one who kept extra charges in her drawer for anyone who forgot theirs, who stayed late fixing other people's mistakes, who never made waves. I was the one they trusted, the one they leaned on, the one who didn't say no. I made myself small so they'd feel big. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I said, "It's no problem," when it was absolutely a problem. They said I was indispensable, irreplaceable. Turns out I was just convenient. I worked at Athena Capital, fintech startup turned rising giant, all shiny floors and eco-chic branding, like if Wall Street joined a yoga cult. We sold ESG portfolios and bragged about diversity panels while underpaying our assistants and working them to the bone. But I believed in it. I believed in all of it. I clawed my way up to interim CFO, with the promise, the guarantee they said, that it would be made permanent by end of quarter. Grace Lynn, the COO, called me her rock. She said, "You're not just finance, Lauren. You're the spine of this place." I believed her. The night it all started, I was still in the office at 9:42 p.m. The rest of the building was dark, emptied out, silent except for the buzzing light above my cubicle that flickered every few seconds. My microwave dinner sat cold next to my keyboard. I hadn't eaten. I was buried in the Q4 projections, reviewing allocations before the board meeting. That's when I saw it. Line 42C, $1.2 million. Labeled Strategic Investment Trust Transfer. Account origin, L. Bishop Trust. I stared at it for a good 30 seconds before it registered. L. Bishop. That's me. Only I don't have a trust. I don't even have a decent 401k. I'd never authorized a 1.2 million transfer, let alone from a trust that, as far as I knew, didn't exist. At first, I thought it was a tagging error. Maybe someone meant a different account and misattributed it. It happens. Data entry mistakes, copy-paste disasters. I flagged it, added a note to double-check the transaction trail, and told myself it could wait until morning. But even as I closed my laptop, something was already wrong. There was a knot in my stomach. Tight, icy, growing. The next morning, I noticed I wasn't included in the calendar invite for the executive strategy sync. That was unusual. I was always part of those meetings. I asked Maya, our executive assistant, and she gave me this tight-lipped smile. "Oh," she said, without quite meeting my eyes. "They just kept it small today. Senior partners only." I was a senior partner, or at least I thought I was. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I tried to shake it off, kept myself busy with vendor contracts and investor summaries, but something kept buzzing in the back of my brain. That line in the spreadsheet, that number, my name. And then, late that afternoon, I overheard one of the interns whispering in the break room, "Wait, is it true? Is Lauren being investigated for fraud?" The word hit me like a punch. Fraud. I walked into the room and the kid went pale. He stammered something about a misunderstanding and ran off, but it was too late. Someone was saying my name in the same sentence as criminal activity. Someone wanted that idea out there. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing back every memory, every email, every late-night text from Grace. They used to be warm, encouraging. Now they were curt, dismissive, passive-aggressive, in that perfect corporate way. "Can you handle this quickly? I need this cleaned up before morning." "Don't worry about the paper trail." I thought she trusted me. I thought I was her go-to. Now it felt like she'd been setting me up. Back at the office, I noticed my permissions had changed on several internal folders. Files I used to have full access to were suddenly locked. When I asked ET, they said it was an executive-level adjustment. I was still the interim CFO, on paper, but in practice, I was being iced out, and that number, the $1.2 million, it was still there, still tagged to my name, still labeled as approved. I dug deeper. I checked every transfer over the past 6 months. I checked email logs, timestamps, access history. I pulled up old Slack conversations, Google Drive folders, off-site backups, and I found them: documents with my signature, forms with my name, approvals logged under my ID. Except, I never signed them. I never approved those transfers. Some of the timestamps were during hours I wasn't even in the office. Someone had forged my digital credentials, or worse, someone had used me while I wasn't looking. I remembered a night 2 months ago. I'd stayed late fixing Grace's quarterly summary, left my laptop on while I stepped out for a phone call. When I came back, nothing looked different. Now I wasn't so sure. I kept quiet. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed time. But I started to feel it. The way people looked at me, like I was diseased, like they already knew. And then Grace called me into her office. Her smile was too calm. Her voice, soft and low, like she was already mourning me. "Lauren," she said, "we've always trusted you. That's why this situation is so disappointing." She laid out a few printed pages, highlighted lines, transaction history, my name. I stared at her. My mouth went dry. I asked her who authorized the transfer. She said, "You did." I asked why I hadn't been told sooner. She said, "Legal's been reviewing it. We didn't want to escalate unnecessarily." I asked what this meant. She smiled again, a sad, heavy thing. "It means we need to figure out how to contain the damage." Contain, like I was a spill, a mess, a threat. I nodded. I thanked her. I picked up the papers with steady hands. Then I walked out of that room and drove straight home. I opened my laptop, created a folder on a secure drive, named it, "They Think I Won't Fight Back," and I started digging for real. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Grace's face, calm, pitiful, like she was already writing my eulogy. My head was buzzing, my skin itched. I kept checking my phone, waiting for, I don't know, something. A text, a warning, an apology. Nothing came, just the steady silence of people already pulling away. The next morning, I sat in my car for 17 minutes before going in. I watched co-workers file past me through the parking garage, laughing, sipping coffee, living their lives like nothing was wrong. I finally walked in. Head up, smile on, mask locked tight. My desk had been untouched, but someone had gone through my drawers. The USB I always kept taped under the keyboard, gone. I didn't say anything. I didn't flinch, just powered on my computer and opened a dummy spreadsheet and waited. At 10:12 a.m. it came. A misfired email, forwarded to me by accident, probably from a stressed-out junior associate trying to cover her tracks. Subject, Legal Mitigation Strategy, L. Bishop Exposure. I clicked. The email thread was 5 messages deep, buried jargon, sanitized legal language, until one sentence caught me mid-breath. If we push the narrative that Lauren acted independently, we can minimize regulatory exposure. She has a history of overstepping. Use that. I stared at it for a long time. My name, not just mentioned, targeted. They weren't investigating me. They were building a story, a defense, an escape hatch, and they were going to run straight through me to get to it. I felt my hands shake. Closed the email, forwarded it to my personal account, then to my backup account, then to an encrypted folder I'd created that morning. I took a walk around the block. I don't even remember the air, or the sun, or my footsteps. All I could hear was that voice in my head. "They're going to bury you." I called Ethan, general counsel, the company's in-house fixer, someone I used to trust. He didn't answer. I texted him, "Can we talk?" No reply. A few minutes later, I saw a notification. Ethan had viewed my LinkedIn profile. I laughed out loud, right there on the sidewalk. a dry, cracked sound. He wasn't going to call me back. He was checking to see if I'd updated my job title. That night, I drove to my sister's place. I didn't tell her why, just said I needed to be somewhere that felt safe. She made tea. We sat in silence. I almost told her, almost opened my mouth, but I couldn't. Not yet. I didn't want to say the words out loud. Saying them would make them real. I started going through everything, every file I'd saved over the years, every email chain I could recover. I pulled up backups from 3 laptops ago, password-protected PDFs I hadn't opened in years, notes scribbled in the margins of old strategy decks. It felt like detective work, but messier, sloppier, more personal. Every clue I found led to another. A signature I didn't recognize. A phrase repeated across different documents, signed off by LB. At first, I thought it was just short for Lauren Bishop. Then I remembered. Ethan's assistant's name is Lydia Benson, LB. 2 initials, 1 target. I kept digging. That's when I found it. An archived folder from our old SharePoint system. Most of it was routine. Budget drafts, investor notes, onboarding materials from years ago. But buried inside was a memo from 4 years back, before I was even promoted to finance lead. It was a risk strategy document. Internal only. Stamped confidential. And in red ink across the top, if fraud scenario occurs, contain, minimize, isolate. Underlined twice, and below it, in bullet points, identify employee with broad access but low decision authority. Leverage existing behavioral patterns, overworking, loyal, emotionally invested. Frame as rogue actor for investor narrative. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't just happening to me. It had been designed for someone like me. Someone exactly like me. I remembered something then. Something small, stupid. A few months ago, at a happy hour, Grace had leaned over with a lazy grin and said, "You're like the company's conscience, Lauren. That's why you're dangerous." I thought it was a compliment. Now I realized it was a warning. They knew I paid attention. They knew I kept records. They knew I wouldn't go quietly, which is exactly why they were working so hard to make me look crazy. I started printing everything. Every email, every memo, every financial record with my name, or close to it. I bought a cheap second phone, rerouted all my logins, encrypted my backups. I was losing sleep, losing hair, but I wasn't losing my mind. Not yet. I knew what was happening now, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not again. I used to think the worst part of betrayal was the moment it happened. It's not. The worst part is everything before, all the memories that come back poisoned, the things you laughed at, the people you defended, the times you blamed yourself instead of seeing it clearly. I see it now, all of it. There was this day, last summer. August. I'd just pulled a 70-hour week getting our investor packet together. The numbers were clean, tight, beautiful even. I printed it, slid it into a leather binder, handed it to Grace before the Monday board meeting. She didn't even look at it, just smiled and said, "That's why I keep you around." I remember thinking it was a joke. Now I think it was the truth. Or that time 2 years ago, when we caught a $400K discrepancy in one of the clean energy portfolios. Grace told me not to escalate it, said it was an accounting hiccup and that she'd handle it internally. I trusted her. I signed off on the adjusted sheet without asking more. I just wanted to be helpful, efficient, the girl who fixes things. Even earlier than that, before my promotion, when I was still just senior analyst, I once flagged a weird vendor invoice during month-end close. It was labeled consulting, but the vendor name was blank. I brought it to Ethan. He barely looked up from his desk and said, "You worry too much, Bishop. Not everything's a conspiracy." I laughed, said, "Guess I'm just allergic to loose ends." He said, "Then you're in the wrong industry." I thought he was being cynical. Now I think he was being honest. It's like I'm rewatching my whole life on mute, but now the captions are on, and I don't like what they're saying. I remembered a girl named Alea. She was head of compliance before me. Bright, quiet, razor sharp. She left the company suddenly. No goodbye party, no LinkedIn post, just gone. People said she had family stuff, that she burned out. I sent her a message. She never replied. I didn't ask questions. I was too busy climbing. Now I wonder, was she the first? Was she the test run? I tried looking her up. Her number was disconnected. Her LinkedIn vanished, like she'd been erased. That night, I pulled out one of my old hard drives, the backup I hadn't touched since 2020, and I found something. An email thread between Aaliyah and Grace, buried in a folder labeled Drafts Deferred. The last message Aaliyah ever sent, timestamped at 3:08 a.m. I've reviewed the vendor list. There are at least 3 shell companies here. I'm not signing off unless we bring legal in. This isn't what I signed up for. No reply. Nothing after that. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart felt like it was trying to beat through my ribs. I whispered, out loud, "You knew." I said it to Grace, to Ethan, to everyone, but mostly to myself. Because the truth is, I knew too. Not all of it. Not enough to name, but I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it, because if I believed it, then everything I'd built meant nothing. All the late nights, all the birthdays missed, all the times I defended them when people asked, "Isn't that company a little too good to be true?" I wanted to believe I was part of something good. Instead, I was their insurance policy. The next morning, I got a calendar invite from HR, subject line, "Status Review Meeting, Performance plus Conduct." No one gets that invite unless they're being pushed out. I didn't accept. I didn't decline. I just stared at it and smiled, because if they were going to come for me, they had no idea what was coming back. I stopped answering calls, stopped replying to messages, stopped showing up to things I used to consider essential, leadership briefings, budget meetings, wellness checks. They said I was spiraling, that I was burned out, unstable, a liability. Good. Let them think that. Let them lower their guard. I played the part. I wore the same sweater 3 days in a row, let my hair get greasy, stopped wearing eyeliner, let my voice go flat and small. I let them believe I was fading. But I wasn't. I was sharpening. At night, I stayed up scraping every corner of our systems, pulled old SharePoint logs, backup caches, document version histories that most people don't even know exist. I printed copies, stored them in separate folders, tucked USBs into 3 different hiding spots, one in my apartment, one in my sister's basement, and one I mailed to myself, postmarked from another state. They'd have to burn the country down to erase all of it. I found transfers routed through shell companies tied to board members. I found payroll discrepancies, consulting fees that matched up with personal luxury purchases, a $14,000 conference expense spent entirely at a resort spa in Tulum. I also found emails, edited, cleaned, but not perfectly. Metadata tells the truth. A document tagged as written by me was created 2 minutes before I even logged in that day. Amateurs. I started lying. To Grace, to Ethan, to everyone. Oh, I've been taking time for myself. Oh, I haven't really been online much. Oh, I trust the process. Lie, lie, lie. I smiled when they spoke to me, laughed when they made hollow jokes, but inside I was taking notes. I bought a burner phone. I created a Gmail under a fake name, and I started sending things to an old journalist friend from college, someone who once covered a financial abuse case at a Fortune 100 firm. We hadn't talked in years, but I knew he wouldn't forget me. I didn't give him everything, not yet, just enough to get his attention. Subject line, would 1.2 M disappear if no one was watching? Attached, 3 redacted files, a trail of emails, a folder labeled L. Bishop Trust. Within an hour, he replied, "Holy shit, call me." That was the first time I let myself breathe in days. The first time I remembered that I wasn't crazy, that what was happening was real, that someone believed me. I didn't call right away. I sat with it, let the weight shift. Then I opened a new document, a blank page. At the top, I typed, "What they did to me," and I started writing everything. Not like a report, like a confession. All the times I stayed silent, all the things I looked away from, all the small betrayals I absorbed because I thought it was the cost of success. I wrote until my hands cramped, until my throat felt raw, and my heart felt like someone had been stepping on it for months. They wanted me paranoid, isolated, powerless. But here's the thing no one tells you about women like me. Women who've spent their whole lives playing nice, being useful, cleaning up other people's messes. We remember everything. We just don't always say it out loud. Until now. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of day where the air feels wrong. Too still, too quiet, like the city's holding its breath. I was in the office, sitting in the glass-walled conference room, waiting for a meeting that hadn't been added to my calendar. Someone had just casually told me, "Hey, they want to see you." That was the first sign. The second was that HR was there, and legal, and Grace. Not Ethan, though. He never looks you in the eye when he's about to screw you. Grace was wearing navy, minimal jewelry, neutral makeup, damage control uniform. She folded her hands, tilted her head, looked at me like I was something she had to pity before disposing of. "We're going to need your company devices, Lauren." Just like that. No questions, no explanation, no process. I opened my mouth to ask why, to ask what this was, to demand someone say it out loud. But then I saw the file on the table. Printed, stapled, my name at the top. The title read, "Internal Disciplinary Action, Gross Misconduct and Breach of Fiduciary Duty." I didn't breathe, not for a long time. Grace looked at me, not unkindly, like she was doing me a favor. "We're not pressing charges," she said, "as long as this stays quiet." There it was, the threat, the favor, the lie. I picked up the folder, skimmed the pages, doctored records, fake approvals, fabricated logins, every ounce of it carefully designed to make me look exactly how they needed me to look. Guilty, sloppy, desperate. It was brilliant, honestly. Sickeningly brilliant. There was even a resignation letter, pre-dated, pre-signed, with my forged signature. I looked at Grace, and for the first time I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just smiled. It wasn't big. It wasn't kind. It was the kind of smile you give someone before a storm. "I'm going to walk out now," I said, "but you already know I won't go quietly." Her face flickered, just for a second. Then she said, "I really hope you think this through." I already did, and I walked out. In the elevator, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored wall. I looked normal, wrinkled blouse, sleep-starved eyes, cheap flats. But inside I was done being anyone's scapegoat, done playing their little game of pretend. They wanted me to be a cautionary tale, to vanish, mutter some vague apology, disappear from the industry. What they didn't expect was that I'd been recording. Everything, meetings, calls, Slack messages, every lie, every threat, every damn smile. I'd been careful. I'd been underestimated. And now I had everything. I called the journalist, told him I was ready, sent the encrypted folder, the documents, the timelines, the memo from 4 years ago, Alea's last email, all of it. He said nothing for a long time. Then, "Jesus Christ," I said, "Yeah." He asked if I was sure. I said, "I was loyal for 8 years. They threw me away in one meeting, I'm sure." He paused, then said the words I'd been waiting for. This is going to burn them to the ground. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat in the dark, watched my inbox fill with messages from people who hadn't texted me in months. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my journal, wrote one sentence at the top of the page. You should have picked someone dumber, and I meant every word. The day after they tried to erase me, I made eggs, 2 of them, scrambled, with sharp cheddar and too much black pepper. I know that sounds small, but it was the first real food I'd made for myself in weeks, the first time I'd stood in my kitchen and felt like I owned the space, like I had a body and agency and rage that was finally starting to settle into purpose. I didn't cry, didn't panic, didn't replay the meeting over and over like a horror loop. Because it was done, they'd made their move, and now it was mine. I started small. Step 1, freeze the narrative. I contacted the journalist, Nick, and told him to wait. Just 2 days, I said. I need time to move a few pieces. He wasn't happy, but he agreed. I created an anonymous tip line, masked the IP, routed it through 3 VPNs, labeled it Project Ghost. Then I sent out a message to 3 former employees of Athena Capital, people who left quietly, who didn't post about it, who didn't say why. Alea, Marco, Jules. I didn't ask them for anything, just wrote, if they did it to you too, I have proof. I'm not afraid anymore. L. Within an hour, Marco replied, call me, you're not crazy. Step 2. Collect the rot. I traced every shell company back to a real name. There was a consulting firm that billed Athena $300K in 1 quarter. It was registered to a residential address in Vermont. I Google Street viewed it. It was a lake house. Grace's name was on the deed. There it was. Not just negligence, not just fraud, personal enrichment, tax evasion, securities violations, enough to make even a quiet regulator salivate. I bundled it all. Timelines, files, screenshots, metadata, and I didn't send it anywhere. Not yet. I wanted to see who else would crawl out of the shadows. Step 3. Bait the snakes. I leaked 1 single file, 1 memo, incomplete, redacted, sent from an anonymous burner to Athena's general tips inbox. Within hours, I got an email from Ethan. Hey, are you okay? I know things were tense, but I'm here if you want to talk. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. They could feel it now. The tremor. The pressure building under the floor. I replied, let's talk, but not over email. We met at a bar downtown. Public, noisy, neutral ground. He looked tired, rumpled. Not like his usual polished self. He talked a lot, mostly about himself, how hard things had been, how he never wanted it to go down like this, how we're all victims of a broken system. I nodded, smiled, sipped my drink. Then I said, you forged my signature. His face didn't move, but his hand, the one holding his glass, tensed. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. That's okay, I whispered. I have the metadata. He didn't ask how. He didn't deny it. Just said, you don't want to go to war with Grace. She doesn't lose. I smiled. That's funny. She said the same thing about me. I didn't sleep much that week. I wasn't anxious anymore. I was awake because I didn't want to miss anything. Every hour felt like a door creaking open. A new email, a new tip, a new thread that made the picture clearer. It was never just about the $1.2 million. It was about who got protected and who got sacrificed. Marco sent me a voice note. His voice was raw, exhausted, honest in a way only people with nothing left to lose can be. They made me cover for them, Lauren. I flagged it and they told me to make the numbers work or I'd be fired, so I did. And then they fired me anyway. He forwarded old emails, backups, sloppy edits with changelogs that still had Grace's name attached. Then Jules replied. She sent a scanned notebook, handwritten records from 2021, names, dollar amounts, client IDs. There, scribbled between lines like it meant nothing, was mine. L. Bishop, plausible fall guy, likes to fix things. I stared at that sentence for 20 minutes, then I added it to the file. Top of the page. They chose me before I even knew I was playing. I sent a Dropbox link to Nick. Subject line, "It's time." He called 2 hours later. His voice was clipped, tight with adrenaline. "This is going to explode, Lauren." I told him I didn't care about headlines. I wanted them to feel what it's like to lose control of the narrative. I wanted them to wake up one morning and realize they don't get to decide how the story ends. I got a call from Grace 2 days later. Blocked number. I picked up without saying hello. She went quiet for a second. Then, "You're not thinking clearly, Lauren. You've always been emotional." There it was, that old sharp blade they use on women. Emotional. I almost laughed. "I'm not emotional," I said. "I'm methodical. And you're scared." More silence. Then her voice changed, low, threatening. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Oh, Grace," I said. "Neither do you." And I hung up. That same day, I got a message on Signal. Encrypted, anonymous handle. Just one line. "Check who signed off on your hire." At first, I didn't understand. Then I went back. Old HR records, hiring documents, the file I signed on my first day. And there it was. Approval signature. L. Carrington. Lydia Carrington, board member. Silent partner. The same woman who now owned 2 of the shell companies laundering money through Athena. She hadn't just approved my hire. She'd placed me, like a chess piece, a clean name with clean hands, smart, obedient, grateful, easy to use, easier to discard. It hit me all at once. I wasn't collateral. I was the plan, from the start. I slammed my laptop shut, stared at the wall, felt the burn behind my eyes. How many times had I told myself I'd earned it, that I was finally being seen, finally valued? God, they never saw me. They used me, and I let them, because I wanted so badly to believe I'd made it. I booked a meeting with Nick and his editor, told them we needed to go wide, not just about Grace, not just Athena, the board, the structure, the entire ecosystem that feeds on women like me, overachievers with no power and too much to prove. We weren't just going after fraud. We were going after the pattern. I thought I'd found everything, the shell companies, the fraud trail, the strategy memos, the people who chose me to take the fall. I thought that was the whole truth. But I was wrong. There was one more thread I hadn't pulled yet. I was scanning old emails one night, not from work, but from my personal account. I'd forgotten I used to forward things to myself during my first year at Athena, meeting notes, thoughts, random screenshots. Then I found a message with no subject line, sent to myself 7 years ago, a photo attachment, one I didn't remember taking. It was a blurry shot of a whiteboard during orientation, a brainstorming exercise. At the edge of the photo, in small, barely legible handwriting, there were initials. LCI zoomed in, and next to them, friend of family, quiet eyes, knows how to follow. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. I checked the orientation roster. Everyone who attended that week. No one had those initials. Except me, Lauren Carrington Bishop. Carrington. I froze. The name. It wasn't just some executive I'd never met. Lydia Carrington wasn't just the board member who signed off on my hire. She was family. I called my sister, told her I had a weird question. "Do we know a Lydia Carrington?" She went silent for a second, then, "You mean Aunt Lydia?" I sat down. Hard. "Aunt Lydia?" "Yeah, Mom's cousin, from upstate. Super rich. She paid for your college, remember? after Dad bailed. I stared at the wall. Something was cracking in my chest. I thought that was a scholarship. My sister laughed like it was obvious. No, Lauren, it was her. She said she believed in you, that you were special. I hung up. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just a setup. It was a setup wrapped in care, in family. Someone who watched me grow up, who saw me survive the divorce, who paid for my degree, who called me resilient when I got my first internship. She didn't do it to help me. She did it to place me. Like a pawn on a board she'd already drawn. I wasn't just the perfect employee. I was the perfect scapegoat. Groomed for it. Hand-picked. Loved. Just enough to be useful. I found Lydia's email buried in my contacts, typed a message, then deleted it. What was I going to say? Thanks for the tuition and the trauma. I called Nick, told him what I found. He went silent, then said, "This just went from a business scandal to a generational one." Exactly. It wasn't just Athena, it was how women like me get built, molded, sharpened for service, taught to be good, efficient, quiet. We're not promoted, we're positioned. And when we stop being useful, we get erased. But not this time. This time I was going to make sure the eraser couldn't reach me. The first thing I leaked was the spa invoice. Small, elegant, inarguable. A $14,312 conference fee that went entirely to Grace's favorite wellness retreat, billed during a week when she claimed to be in London meeting investors. I sent it to Nick. He forwarded it to an online news site known for breaking finance stories. Within 6 hours, it was live. Athena Capital exec, accused of embezzling funds for personal luxury travel. Nothing nuclear. Not yet. Just enough smoke to get the fire started. Next, I released 3 emails, each one time-stamped, metadata locked, showing direct instruction from Ethan to falsify quarterly reports. Each one with my name, used as the supposed approver. The story escalated. More outlets picked it up. The language shifted from questionable expenses to possible financial misconduct, from errors to fraud. Then came the investors, because the only thing that moves a scandal faster than guilt is money. Athena's stock started slipping, not plummeting, not yet, just enough that people noticed, enough that Grace and Ethan had to cancel their panel at the finance summit that weekend, enough to get the board's attention. I leaked one final file before I vanished, the Fall Guy memo, the one with bullet points, identify loyal employee, frame as rogue, minimize exposure, red ink, underlined, with my initials in the margin. It made national press. And that's when the calls started. From lawyers, from regulators, from Grace. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I flew to DC, sat down with Nick and his editor, gave a full interview, off the record, face blurred, voice distorted. I didn't want fame. I wanted facts. I wanted their lies printed in ink, circulated, indexed, permanent, and I wanted everyone to see the blueprint, how institutions build women like me up, just to break us down and blame us for the debris. 3 weeks later, the Securities Commission launched a formal investigation. Grace stepped down. Ethan took a leave of absence. The board was under review. I watched the press conference in silence, the way someone watches a funeral from the back row. They still didn't say my name, but they didn't have to. Everyone knew. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean, like I'd finally scrubbed something off my soul that had been stuck there since I was 21. Since I first said, "No problem, I'll stay late." Since I first thought, if I'm useful enough, they'll protect me. Since I first believed that loyalty meant safety, it doesn't. Not in this world. But now, I wasn't part of that world anymore. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about release. She doesn't walk away with applause. She walks away free, no longer chasing closure, no longer begging to be seen. She leaves behind the lie and carries only what's hers, her truth, her scars, and her name, on her own terms. Let's bring it home. I didn't go back for my things. I let them keep the desk, the chair, the empty mug that said, "Rise and grind." Let them keep my badge in a drawer somewhere. Let them pretend I was a phase, a line item, a closed chapter. They'll rewrite the story. They'll say I lost it, got emotional, tried to take the company down when I didn't get my way. Let them. I don't need them to tell the truth anymore, because I already did. The journalist piece dropped on a Tuesday, front page. Black and white photo of Athena's glass tower, cracked in half by the bold headline, "Inside the Scandal, How a Rising Star at Athena Capital Was Used, Framed, and Fought Back." It didn't name me, legally it couldn't, but it didn't have to. People knew. I saw it in the emails, in the DMs from strangers, in the text from Alea, who I hadn't heard from in 4 years. "You did it. You finished what I couldn't." I cried when I read that. Not because I was sad, but because it was the first time I didn't feel alone. I moved out of my apartment a week later. Too many memories, too many ghosts in the walls. I left the city, rented a small house in a quiet town where no one knows what Athena is. I read books. I cooked again. I went whole days without checking my email. And one morning I stood barefoot on the porch with a cup of coffee in my hand. And I realized no one was watching me. No one needed me to perform, or fix, or prove. I was just me. Lauren Bishop, not a scapegoat, not a case study, not a victim. A woman who walked through fire and didn't come out clean, but came out real. I still have the file, everything I collected, all the proof, all the rot. It lives on a hard drive in my closet, next to a photo of me at 24. Smiling, believing, hopeful. I keep it not because I need it, but because it reminds me what happens when you forget who you are and let other people define it for you. Never again. Some nights I still hear Grace's voice in my head, telling me I was too emotional, telling me to be smart, telling me, "Don't make this worse." And I smile. Because I did make it worse. For them. I made it so bad they'll never recover. So here's my final statement. For anyone who's ever been used, blamed, erased, they picked the wrong woman. And if they ever try it again, they'll remember me.